Okay, so apparently we are currently live.
Yeah.
So let's hope that we're live. I'm just going to make sure that we are in fact live and that we're streaming. Yeah,
Sounds good.
looks like we are. So welcome everybody. Hope everybody's having a good time, a good day. This is the first live stream of the year, so that's pretty cool. And I'm very pleased and excited to have. Well, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lausho from Lausho's Reviews and Vlogs. People call me Travis. They also call me all kinds of other things like Lasho, Lucia, Washa. They call me all kinds of things.
Yeah, they call you the space cowboy and all that.
Sometimes they even call me Maurice.
Ooh. And we're pretty excited today because both of us are huge Dream Theater fans.
And how?
Yeah, so I unfortunately am not wearing my Dream Theater shirt today. I should have, because we have matching shirts of the last concert that well, not the last concert, but the one that we had been. It was your first Dream Theater concert, my last one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess in technicality, it was both of our last concert, our last Dream Theater concerts.
Let's hope that doesn't become very prophetic.
No, I 100% agree. So yeah, we are going to go through and kind of talk about each of their live albums. I'm going to be moving these guys around, going chronologically because they've done nine. I've included nine. Now I know they've done a lot more, like fan bootlegs. There's been a couple covers that I have as well in terms of like their, what do they call them? I think you might know what do they call those? Like the where they cover a whole album from start to finish.
Uh, the official bootlegs cover series.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I kind of figured you would know the entire thing. Um, and I've only listened to two of those official bootlegs. How many have you listened to any of those?
A few of them.
A few of them, yeah. I've listened to the Dark Side of the Moon because I have that one, and I love the
Yep.
fact that on the second disc they have a bunch of other Pink Floyd tracks, which is quite
Yeah.
fun. And I also listened to the Deep Purple one because
Yeah.
that's my dad's favorite live album of all time. So
It's kind of ironic, like a cover of a live album done live.
yeah, well, it's also one of the best projects from Deep Purple because Deep Purple was one of those bands that revolutionized the live experience because they did so
Yes.
many different things. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Deep Purple.
Deep Purple.
Although
No.
I am interested. Which have you heard any of the bootlegged albums?
From Dream Theater?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a pretty vast collection of Dream Theater material downloaded over the years. So I've heard, of course, the two you just mentioned, as well as the Master of Puppets cover from Metallica, Number of the Beast from Iron Maiden.
Yep.
I'm not sure if there are any more official bootleg cover albums.
Oh, let me see because I know they have quite a. I think there's. Well, you already said the Iron Maiden one.
And then I've heard like non-live, and we're not here to talk about
No,
non-live.
no. This
ones.
is a purely live experience. So, I'm just gonna.
I miss live experiences.
You and I both.
I even miss the expensive beer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I miss waiting out in the cold, being in Toronto for like an hour and a half. Oh, those were the days.
I might just have to line up in front of an LCBO for half an hour and give the lady at the counter $10 for a single beer.
Yeah.
Just to have those experiences
Oh
again.
man, nostalgia, nostalgia. Anyway, I'm just gonna pull up because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Dream Theater. Just gonna put that up on my tablet. Theater. We're looking at their live albums, and these are like the official ones. Nine of them, which is their live albums surpass many studio records from a lot of bands, which I think is hilarious. So I figure we'll go chronologically, talk about them a little bit, and also where you think they deserve to be on this tier. And so
Yeah.
let's start. And I know we both have props because I've got. As I was talking before, most of my CDs are up at my family cottage. So I have Once in a Lifetime, Live Scenes from a Memory, and Score up at the cottage, the family cottage. And then I have my DVDs here. And I think this is one that you have a prop for, which is the Live at the Marquee. This guy right here. So, thinking, where do you
Oh, you
think?
have. Sorry, I'm typing in the chat. You have Live at the Marquee.
I
Let's see
don't,
it.
I don't, but
Oh,
I thought you did. That's why I was saying.
oh, it's got yellow, so it blends into my background too much. But if I move it around fast enough,
Oh, there you go.
there we
Yeah,
go. Yes, I have it on vinyl. It was the first Dream Theater vinyl I ever purchased. So
interesting.
yeah,
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and if you guys, I'm keeping my eye on the chat. I won't be chatting like responding in the chat. I'll just be doing that vocally. But let me know if the audio quality at any point dips or if it's not coming through properly. I had to kind of Frankenstein Travis's Laoshow's audio here. So as long as you're coming in good, perfect. People are saying that you're coming in good.
killer.
Killer. Okay, so what are your thoughts of Live at the Marquee? Their 1993 release.
Their only live release pre Labrie vocal injury.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad I actually have the record here because I can look at track lists and stuff that I. You know, it's a good release, and I like that it's one of the few official recordings that has the Another Hand slash The Killing Hand piece. It feels a little like, I mean, of course, the band only had two albums at this point. They only had
Yeah.
Images and Words and When Dream and Day Unite. So,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, they weren't going to have a long list of material. But when you compare the amount of material on this to something that they would have released later, like even their next live album has a lot more material on it.
Yeah.
It does feel a little lacking in what's on it, but more so to like you've got that track Bombay Vindaloo, which is
Yep.
just sort of them improvising, and I can't help but wonder if maybe having another track on there, like they must have played another song at that concert, like Learning to Live or
Yeah.
Take the Time or something. Is Take the Time on this one? Let me check.
No, I don't think it
No.
is. No.
And that was a crowd favorite. So I mean, the fact that they put like a sort of improvisational track on there instead of one of their hits, I'm not sure how to feel about that. Like, I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of cool that it's like one of the few Dream Theater live albums where something that's a non-album track is kind of like, I don't want to say a centerpiece of it, but because there's not a lot of other material on there, it's every bit as much of a standout as anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't help but feel like you're robbed of like maybe just one more hit.
Just that one more little piece. Yeah, this album reminds me of Genesis Live, their first live album, where they just finished putting out Foxtrot, and there's still quite a number of hits on it, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping for like just one more piece, because they fill up a full album length, like a full live album. But I was kind of hoping just for a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of like the musicianship and presentation on here, I think again because it's pre-Labrie's issue, I think this is probably his best performance.
I don't know about that.
No,
I mean,
no.
I've heard a lot of pre-injury Labrie tracks, and I'm gonna be honest, like there are some pretty hairy, sketchy moments. Mostly because he's still at the stage where it's like over singing. He's, I
I
mean,
see.
I'm gonna sing the highest note I can just because I
Just because
can,
I
and
can, right?
sometimes, and even on Live at the Marquee, you can hear that sometimes where he's just kind of overreaching a little.
Okay,
Like if
okay,
he
okay.
just
That's
sung
fair.
it like the record with maybe a little bit of a flourish, but then there are times where it's just like, come on, James.
Come on. All right. So where would we put this then? Because I'm thinking somewhere around here, but I want to hear your take on it. Now, again, this is in comparison to the works because otherwise they all essentially be up here. So I'm comparing them in and around their own works. I'm thinking kind of because the tiers that we have S, which I'm thinking as like superb. You can't touch it. It's right up amongst the gods. A, B, C, and D. So I'm hovering somewhere between B and C. And again, I'm what's that term in stats where you base it around the mean of the albums, like the mean of the group, because otherwise they all be within like the S and A. So
C sounds about right to me. It
yeah, I was
sounds
saying
like
it feels kind of like a C when we're comparing it to their other outputs. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would agree to that. I would agree to that. So we can move on then to the next one, the one that they released after Falling into Infinity, Once in a Lifetime.
Yeah, so I only have, as far as physical copies go, I only have the 5 years in a lifetime DVD with Live in Tokyo.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was lucky enough to find this in a used record store in a CD. So I've had this for a number of years.
Now, as for the live album itself, this is the one that I've probably listened to the least in the last little while. In
Yep.
fact, in preparation for this stream, I gave a listen to about, 2/3, 3/4 of the record just to sort of refresh myself on it. Yeah, you can really tell James is fresh off that vocal injury. That
It's
the
yeah.
vocal injury is going to dominate so much of the live performances because really, like, when you dig down to the meat of it, Petrucci, Mayung, Portnoy, and all the other musicians, I mean, their performances are never bad.
No,
Their performances don't really change
they've
from
never
album to
put out a
album.
bad performance.
So a lot of it hinges on James's ability to sing, and Once in a Lifetime is probably his lowest point because this is like right after it, and like you can hear him struggle, and like I don't know if the album itself is in chronological order of the way they played the set, but already by the fourth track, Just Let Me Breathe, well, somebody needs to let him breathe a little.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a little bit of a soft spot in this one because I love how this album, in terms of a live performance, is structured around the change of season suite.
Yeah, that is a clever one.
It's so good, and I love how that's sprinkled in there, and I also love how you can feel a number of times on more of like the improv set, specifically with Petrucci, you can feel where some of this, some of the seeds for the liquid tension experiment are in. Because
Yeah.
there's a number of times when I'm listening to it, I'm like, ooh, that's, that track from Liquid Tension Experiment. But this is also the only live disc that we have with Derek on the keyboards.
Yes.
And I guess we should have said about the Marquee, that was the only one with Kevin on the keyboards. So yeah,
Oh yeah, he was on that one.
yeah. So hearing Derek on this and seeing how much of a powerhouse he is, in comparison to the other two, like Rudis and Moore, I kind of like hearing the different interpretations of their keyboard styles, and specifically with Once in a Lifetime, because I mean he might not necessarily be as technical as Rudis was, but he is definitely more of a powerhouse.
Yeah, like I've always thought of like the keyboardist in Dream Theater. It's like Kevin Moore was always sort of the emotive one, the
Agreed.
one where it's like he always played with a lot of feel.
Yep.
Derek was the one who played like a freaking rock star. Like he
Yep.
played like he was Yngwie Malmsteen on keyboards. Whereas Jordan Rudess, once we get into the future, like he's more like the classically trained kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like he's the classical musician.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also the wizard.
I would agree to that. Yeah, I always felt like Rudis was the most technically skilled, but there's a line that says you only really need one note in order to elicit a feeling. So why use 700?
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm thinking about that with Rudis, but I still love his playing styles, and
Oh, totally.
I will never take his playing styles as a negative. But yeah, so I again, I love Once in a Lifetime. I love the selection of tracks. My favorite track off of this whole list, though, is Peruvian Skies, because they incorporate, and depending on how they played this, because there's a number of versions of Peruvian Sky, they will always do a Pink Floyd track at the beginning to kind of knead it in, and then a Metallica track at the end to kind of explode the track in. And I always love when they do that, and I'm surprised that they don't do that in subsequent albums.
They do little things like that all over the record too, like
Yeah, yeah,
the little baseball theme music that comes up in A Change of Seasons that my young plays. That's pretty cheeky, and I love it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And
wish I did more of that stuff nowadays.
yeah, and it was something that they did quite often. Like, we're going to be talking about this a little bit more once we get into live scenes, but this was something that I loved about these early albums. When you go to listen to a Dream Theater song being played live, you're not just sitting down and listening to the studio recording. They're doing new things with it. So
Exactly.
yeah, and I love what they're doing on all these tracks on here. For me, I would put this probably closer to the B. I think that they're getting higher up in the list. There's still more ground to cover before we get to like the pure masters. But there's some really, really good stuff on here that I would definitely check out. But where would you put this?
If there was a space between B and C, I'd put it there. But B sounds appropriate for this, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's their first live release that's like the sort of live release that we're familiar with from Dream Theater, like the big one with an entire set
Yeah.
thrown onto a couple of discs.
Yeah.
Unlike Live at the Marquee, which is just like, here's like 3 live tracks, keep you tied over until we release a wave.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and this is the experience that you come for a Dream Theater live album, which is this massive experience that's, well into the maybe 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, talking about the 2-hour mark, coming into Scenes from a Memory, live scenes from New York, released in 2001. And it's interesting because I have this image, like the one with the apple on fire and the cityscape of New York.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have that edition because
Oh,
I'm sure they pulled that from the stores before
yep.
they could sell too many of them because it's got the 2 towers in it.
and did you know it was actually released on 9/11?
Yeah. So
crazy.
they only those albums that were able to get out before they could pull them out were able to do so. Kaylor, Calhor just donated is that £2? Thank you so much. That's so amazing. Yeah,
€2.
€2. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. That really does mean a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I know for most other people, they just have the Dream Theater emblem in that center piece. But yeah, because I'm in Canada and we have a little bit more in that.
My physical copy is just the Metropolis 2000 DVD.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The old school one with like the little plastic flap that opens up, and they don't make DVD cases like this anymore. I don't know why.
Maybe because they self-destruct after like 5 years.
I don't know. This one's been going for 20 and it's still fine. So,
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, 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 yeah.
but
So,
yeah. I mean, as a live album,
lay it on. What do we got?
so I'm less familiar with like the latter half of it because of course like I've worn out this copy of it more than I've like really sat and listened to live scenes from New York, the live album.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, I mean that show was an important show for Dream Theater in so many ways because like I mean it was a hometown gig for them playing their grandiose new concept album live. It was a 3 hour gig. I think there's even more material that didn't make it onto this recording just because it's like we're already on 3 discs.
Yeah.
And I believe after the end of that show, Mike Portnoy actually passed out and had to be
Oh, jeez.
yeah, he had to be like taken out by an ambulance because he was like sick and throwing up just from like the exhaustion, too many Red Bulls.
Oh, jeez.
Probably had a few drinks before that. I think that was like the last show that they did where Mike Portnoy drank,
Wow, yeah.
and then he quit drinking like after that tour.
Yeah, yeah, because then the next album starts off with the 12 step suite.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but, yeah, I mean, I love the album, and I think you can start to see where James is starting to recover a bit.
Yeah.
He's still a little pitchy here and there, but I mean, you can really tell that this is where they really started to like. They put a lot of passion into the show, and for me, like because I'm gonna keep leaning on DVDs because that's what I buy for live Dream Theater. Just the visuals of the show too are really good. Like where during regression you have James laying in the psychiatrist's couch
Yeah.
with
yeah.
the narrator over him. Like it's more than an audio spectacle. You've got to catch the video too.
Yeah.
Although there are some moments where it's a little graphic design is my passion.
It really is, yeah. Oh,
But
boy.
I mean, I love it. I have a very soft spot for live scenes from New York, just because of how much passion and just how awesome the show was altogether.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything that you just said. This one is also really personal for me. Like, when I was first getting into Dream Theater back in 2007, I know I was kind of late to the boat. I remember being at the record shop and seeing this particular album as well as Score and not knowing which one I wanted to go for because I knew I wanted a live CD. And I just didn't know which one to go. In the end, I ended up buying both. And I just remember playing this one so much because at that time I only had Scenes from a Memory and Octavarium. Those were the only two albums I had from them. So this was the first foray into their older stuff, and I just devoured it in a live setting. And I mean, I think this is one of the most perfect captures of the whole Scenes from a Memory expression. The only thing that I have a little bit of a gripe for, because I listened to it on CD, is that the first disc ends on Dance of Eternity and the second disc starts with One Last Time.
Yeah.
But I also understand the time restraints and all that, so I get that. But I mean, Teresa Thompson on The Spirit Carries On, with the seventh track of John and Teresa's solo spot, like both of those tracks get me incredibly emotional, and I have to be careful again where I listen to this because I'll just start to weep because her voice just shines. It really, really does.
Like the first time I watched this DVD and you see Teresa and James and everybody and like the choir in the background all yeah, it's such a vibe.
It is. It really is. Yeah. So, I love that they essentially.
It hits me
yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right here every time.
So I love the fact that the this live sequence opens with the entirety of Scenes from Memory, and then we get kind of their hits up to that point on kind of the second disc with
Uh,
a little bit,
yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
a little bit, and
Another
then
Day was a hit.
I will admit I'm surprised that they didn't include. And I'm just trying to. I don't want to say it unless. Yeah, they didn't include. The title, the first track from Images and Words. Why can't I?
Pull Me Under.
Thank you. Pull Me Under on this because that was their big hit. But they end with Change of Seasons, so they end with their big 20-minute track. So that is one heck of a runtime when you start off with a full album and then you end like your encore with their massive 24-minute piece. So,
Indeed.
yeah. And then having learning to live being the first encore, which so for me, this is like top tier. This is S.
It's S.
Like
it's S tier.
there's absolutely no way
No
that it
question.
couldn't be. There's no question. There's no hesitation. It's straight up to the S. Yeah, I think this is just perfect, and I love how they blend a lot of different tracks in there, like having the mirror into what was the one? There's almost like two tracks that from Awake.
Lie.
Yeah.
I think it's one of them.
Yeah, where they kind
Oh,
of
no,
like
not Lie.
no, it was
The Mirror.
caught in a new millennium because it's caught in a web, and they also have like I love that track, and I love how they mush those two tracks together to create this brilliant item. And then
Indeed.
of course Acid Rain's on there. So yeah, let's move on to Budokai.
A Budokan? Yeah.
Sorry, Budokan. Yeah, I always want to pronounce it Budokai. Budokan, the album that was their Japanese, and they were touring Train of Thought at that time.
Yeah. And that kind of segues a little neatly into sort of my introduction to Dream Theater in a way. Like, of course, by the time Train of Thought and Budokan came out, I was already pretty well versed in Dream Theater up to that point. But I started Dream Theater on 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So, Train of Thought, like, I'd already become a big fan of Dream Theater by that time.
Mm-hmm.
Train of Thought was one of the first albums in my life, like, from any band that I anticipated coming out. Like, I waited, counting down the days until the album came out, and
Yep.
snuck into the computer lab at my school and downloaded the single for As I Am
Yep.
on their crap internet and listened to it in class without my teacher noticing.
Yep. Yep.
And so Budokan was my first live experience with Dream Theater.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. Yep.
I mean, you're always going to have a soft spot for your first.
Yep.
And
Yep.
looking at it objectively, I can say if I had gone to that show now,
Yep.
knowing what I know about Dream Theater, I might have been a little disappointed that they leaned so hard on new material rather than playing their hits, but also quite appreciative of the other material that they brought out. I mean,
Right.
there's only like one or two tracks from Scenes from a Memory. I don't think there's anything from Awake on this.
I don't
No,
think so. No.
It's almost all of Train of Thought, save for Honor Thy Father.
Which is so weird because that's one of my favorite tracks from that album. I mean,
And
Train of Thought's one of my favorite albums from them. But I love Honor Thy Father just for that whole "Don't Cross the Crooked Step" moment.
I think they put it's a bonus track on the next one, so a live version of it. So they've essentially played all of Train of Thought live. But then you've got moments like the jam session in Beyond This Life, which is just like, that was the first time I had my mind blown by a live DVD because like I still watch it to this day and go, how the hell did John Petrucci think of those scales. Like,
Yeah.
what's he even playing there?
Yeah.
And as a musician, the fact that the instrumentally has like the special feature where you can watch like multiple cameras that focus on one member each,
Yep.
you know, Dream Theater is not a band that you watch to see like lots of hair flying around and head banging.
No,
Like
no, no.
you go to watch their fingers,
It's
and the
true.
fact that they
Yeah.
put that on the DVD is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Like I have the DVD, so I've got that as a prop here. Yeah, and
Hey,
so I was watching it this afternoon, and so when I first got into Dream Theater, I was roped in by two of their tracks from the Prague archives. The one was Panic Attack, the radio version, and
Okay.
the other one was Stream of Consciousness.
ah,
And so Stream of Consciousness was what really hooked me in. And I was shocked when I watched the live performance, just like the straight up live performance, that during one of the more technical parts, like I'm not really a musician,
yeah,
but they focus in on Ming and his playing when I wanted to see Petrucci's playing. It was a very interesting choice because you can hear Petrucci just like shredding it away, and then it's just focusing in on
my young,
my sorry, I
yeah,
always call him Ming. Mayang. Apologies.
yeah.
That's a major apologies on my side.
I yeah, I hate that in live videos too. Like, I want to see the person who's soloing. Although,
Yeah.
admittedly, and I actually remember I can't remember if it's this DVD or the next one, but they actually talked about how they had to cut an entire bit of John Petrucci footage because on the actual live recording, his amp cut out or something. Like his entire
Oh.
rig went dead for a couple bars,
Oh no.
and he's just like standing there like, what do I do? And they managed to get it fixed like just in the nick of time for like the big moment. But they can't just have a video of him standing there uselessly during the solo.
That's true.
And of course, like they redubbed the part in the studio, which is, I
Yeah.
mean, I hate when bands do that. But if it's like a live at Budokan show where you're not doing like clips from several concerts, but one concert, you want the whole thing to be a good experience. You don't want to have that imperfection. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it reminds me of the little snafu that happened on Opeth's 20th anniversary, right on the final track, where I can't remember whose amp wasn't working, but one of them wasn't working, and so they all just kind of stood around for like a minute and a half. And of course, there's the iconic one from Porcupine Tree on Arriving Somewhere, where Steven Wilson on the final track of Trains breaks his string. So yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting call. Do you want a synthetic perfect item or do you want a flawed real item? So it's a tough call, and I don't envy the production side of people trying to make
yeah.
those calls. But anyway, I
That being said,
yeah.
it's a brilliant live album, and if you ask
Yeah.
me, it deserves to be, if not an S, it's definitely an A.
I was gonna say, instrumentally alone pushes it into the A category for me. I do think, and I agree with you that they did spend a little bit too much time on Train of Thought. I don't see that necessarily as a negative because I
Oh,
love
neither do I.
I love Train of Thought as much as I do. I do wonder why they stuck around and played so much from. I mean, I don't wonder because I know why they played so much from Falling into Infinity on this album.
Yeah.
Because there's quite a few, and there's like very little from, like we already said, there's nothing from Awake, and I think only a couple tracks from Images and Words. So I would have,
Pull Me Under.
yeah, you got Pull Me Under, and
Yeah.
I want to say there was that might be it. I think
I
that
mean,
might be
whatever
it.
else is an instrumentally.
That's true. Yeah, and I do appreciate the fact that they played quite a bit of selections from, because they do play the instrumental track from the Awake album. I can't.
Well, there wasn't but like bits of the middle section of Metropolis.
Yeah, there was bits. I mean, Dance of Eternity kind of structured it, which was really really fun.
Yeah.
Now I've seen. I'm just going to address the chat because it looks like CK has been asking if I live in Canada. Yes, I do. There you go.
Yeah, bud. Yeah, bud. We
Yeah,
both
right.
live in Canada, eh?
Right on, bud. Yeah, go jump in the lake, you hoser. So I also I love some of the tracks that they have from Falling into Infinity, but I don't think they needed all of them. Like
No.
I don't really need to listen to A New Millennium again.
Oh,
And
but I loved watching John Mayung play the stick
I mean
on
that's
that.
true. That's true. I love that, but I don't need to hear it again because they have it a
Yeah.
number of times. And same with Lines in the Sand. Again, do they put that one on here?
No, it was Trial of Tears.
Trial of Tears. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, Trial of Tears. I think they could have removed either New Millennium or Trial of Tears and put on something from Awake or Images and Words, just to kind of balance it off a little bit. Because
Yeah.
I love the Hollow Lears, and I think the presentation of it on this album is just mwah, A plus. So yeah, I would kind of agree to you. If there was like a slot, kind of like talking to you, if there was a slot between the S and the A, that's where I would put this one. Cause it's so hard. It's so hard. I'm kind of wavering between the two.
Like I want to say A just for the fact of like being objective and not just putting my introduction to Dream Theater on a pedestal undeservedly, but
Yeah.
it is a really good live record
It
and
is.
deserves the praise it gets.
Yeah, and I love the fact that because they were touring a very heavy album, that they came out of the gate with a lot of heavy tracks on it. But
Absolutely.
I only want to reserve the S spot for perfect albums, and I will agree this isn't necessarily a perfect album, but it is a top tier album.
It's a very good album.
Yeah. So this is an A for me.
A sounds good to me too.
Wonderful. All right, let's move on to Score. The other, so kind of talking about what I was saying before, my two first live albums were Live Scenes from New York and Score. And trying to figure out which of these two were my favorite is I can't. I just can't. So I'll let you take away the reins for the first little bit.
Okay. Well, I mean, first off, I love that they, of course, this is touring in support of Octavarium, which was a very important album for me personally. And, they start with a couple tracks from that. But then I love the way this is structured. Like, this is more than just, a random set list. This is, we're going through our discography, and we're even pulling out some completely like unknown weird tracks that we've never really played.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, isn't something from like Majesty on this one as well?
Yeah, another one from the Majesty demos.
Which I friggin' love that track.
It's such a good one. Funny enough, I was reading about this recently where Mike Portnoy said he kind of pissed off the rest of Dream Theater by the fact that he didn't have to rehearse the song. He remembered it because he has like a photographic memory. So
Yeah.
so when they went to rehearse, like everybody had to relearn the song, and Mike was just like, "Nah, I got this."
Nah, I'm good. Oh, that's hilarious.
And then you've got a song from Awake. Like, I love Awake. It's such a great album. It doesn't get the respect it needs. And I love that they put one of my favorite tracks from it, Innocence Faded. I love the play out on that one.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just like raised the middle finger to Falling into Infinity by doing Raise the Knife.
I love that because I love Raise the Knife. I just it
That song should have been on an
it
album.
really should have been. Like, I know it's on Cleaning Out the Closet, and I know that they finally gave it, like, they released it, but it
Yeah.
is such a good track, and I'm saddened that it never really got an official release on a studio album.
Of all of the Falling into Infinity demo tracks, Raise the Knife was the one that deserved to be put somewhere.
I agree.
most.
I agree. Yeah.
But I am a simple man. You give me a full
Yep.
orchestral live rendition of the entire 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence
Yep.
suite. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah.
the rest of the record could be crap, and you give me that, it's best tier.
Yeah,
And
it could essentially be radio, like that radio crackle, like that static. It'd still be a perfect album.
and then it only gets sweeter because they do the same thing with Octavarium, my other like favorite Dream Theater track. So you've got like my two favorite Dream Theater epics.
Yep.
Presented with an orchestra, and I mean, how do you top that?
It's so it's so perfect. Yeah, and because it's so weird when they play anything from the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, the track outside of the full track, it feels out of place. Like
it almost doesn't make sense. It feels like they're playing like just like a little tiny snippet of something.
Yeah, like I know that they played the Test That Stumped Them All and Solitary Shell on the last album that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily feel right. It just feels out of place, like you were saying. I wish that they almost played one of the other tracks on those albums from 6 Degrees, because, I feel like those other tracks don't get the love that they deserve.
Overture and About to Crash.
Yeah.
That's a 1-2 opening punch for me.
It's just so friggin' good. So yeah, I love the concept because, all of their albums have concepts, and a lot of their live albums even have live discs have concepts. So I love that for the 20th anniversary, they started off basically right at the beginning of their discography, played one track from every album until they got to their most recent one. And they decided to play the biggest track from 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. And this is like an adjunct gripe. It's the smallest gripe in the world. It's like a small little voice in my head that's saying they should have gone from Vacant right into Stream of Consciousness. Stream of Consciousness. Because they already had the whole orchestra with them, and I think that would have been a brilliant 1-2 punch. And instead, they didn't. They only play Vacant from Train of Thought, which I'm like, I just wish that they would have played Stream of Consciousness. But
when you add the Honor Thy Father bonus material between these two DVDs, you have the entirety of Train of Thought performed live.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't have the DVD. I just have the CD. But I need to rectify that because I feel like
you do, because the documentary that's on it is fantastic. John Myung talks in it.
Oh, I know that
happens.
Yeah, I know, because we're going to get to it very, very soon. I know that they have a little bit of interviews on the next one that we'll be talking with, and he only has like one moment where he's talking, and it's like the most meek thing I've ever seen, and I'm like, oh, buddy, oh no. Oh,
all right.
Yeah, so I'm ready just to like without hesitation put this straight up into S.
Chuck it in S.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
It's an H.
100%. It is an S. Oh, I just realized I have these guys at a place. There we go. Okay, fixing that. So let's move on. This next one.
Okay.
I feel like there's going to be some discourse about this one, especially with my thoughts about it.
Okay.
Chaos in Motion, 2007, 2008. This was my first DVD of theirs.
Okay.
Because this was the one that was released right when I was getting into Dream Theater. So Dream Theater had just released Systematic Chaos, and it was the first new album of theirs that I got into.
All right.
I devoured that one. And to this day, I know I'm an outlier here. Systematic Chaos is in my top 5, maybe even top 3 favorite Dream Theater albums. I love it. I love Systematic Chaos so much. So the fact that there's a lot of that on this album is a major plus for me. And I also love at this point in their career, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Mike Portnoy wanted to give a unique experience to every city that he was in. So like 3 or 4 songs were only performed in each of those, like a new song was performed in each of those different cities.
My understanding is that Mike's been doing that for years before this, so this is something he's been doing for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the minority of like loving Systematic Chaos. I love
Okay,
that
good.
record.
Okay,
Like
good.
it's
Okay, good. That's good. That's good.
as far as the live album goes, it's a bit of a, I don't want to say mixed bag because that makes it sound like there's really awful moments on it. But I think this is about the point where it's like, okay, I've heard Take the Time on a couple of albums already. They've done Trial of Tears and In the Name of God, Noctivarium
Yep.
on a couple.
Yep.
You know, the version of Scarred on here is, it's okay. You know, there's some good moments though. Like, I mean, I really like the live treatment they did of In the Presence of Enemies, where it's all both parts mashed together.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I understand what they were trying to do with it. They were trying to do a Shine On You Crazy Diamond where the album opens and ends
Yep.
with its massive epic, but I like hearing it as one continuous piece too.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that they do the also Sprasha Zarathustra intro at live as a band instead of just like over the, you know, I thought that was pretty clever.
Yep.
And then another song from 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence that I don't hear played very much, Blind Faith. You know,
Yeah.
that's a bit of a deep cut. Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a mix of, I'm getting a little tired of this track on live releases, and oh, that's an interesting song. I never would have thought to hear from them.
Yeah, and for me, luckily, because at this point, this was only my third live exposure to them, I didn't have that kind of tarnish yet. I didn't have that overexposure. So a lot of these were very, very fresh. Like this was my,
Yeah.
honestly, this was the first exposure that I had to Scarred and to Take the Time, because at that point, like Awake and Images and Words were actually two of my later albums of their discography.
Oh wow.
Like I listened to those guys after I heard Black Clouds and Silver Linings. So this was kind of my first exposure to that, and I was loving their introduction of these tracks. I loved what they were doing with that. Now it is interesting. This is the fanboy that I am. So I have the DVD. I've got that here. Again, I'm using the props. I've got the DVD, and it is like all because of how often I played it. It's well loved. But what I what I did was I played it on my computer, and then I ran a aux cord from my computer into my stereo system into the aux in auxiliary. Then I put the auxiliary out back into my computer in order to record the input sound for my computer to record off of Audacity. So I did this whole Frankensteinian, like, what is it? The Ouroboros, the snake eating itself, in order to record the audio off of this so I could listen to it wherever I wanted to. And I put it on like a DV or rewritable MP3 disc. So that's
Very nice.
that's my that's my dedication to the craft and to the music. So I mean, for me, it's my nostalgia goggles totally playing, because I listened to this, and this is what kind of kicked this whole idea off about ranking all of their their live albums, because I discovered my car plays MP3 discs.
Oh.
And I found all of my old MP3 discs that I burnt that have like countless albums on them. And one of them was only live albums. So I've been going through and I've been listening to them, and I'm like, oh, I need to talk about these, but I don't know how. So this is how I did that. And so I was listening to these guys, specifically Chaos in Motion. A lot of these tracks don't hold up as much as I thought they did.
No.
Oh, it really hurt, because like especially with Lebre's voice. Like this is one of the ones where I'm like, oh no, this I was thinking back to it and being like, the rose tinted glasses were totally making me think that this album was so much better than it was, and I still hold it in very high regard. But there are some times, like especially on Take the Time, Forsaken being another one, and one of my all-time favorite tracks of the Ministry of Lost Souls.
Yeah.
Like, I love that they play it live, and that's one of my all-time favorite Dream Theater tracks. But hearing LeBray's vocals on that, especially when we go into the final stretch of that track, it's like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh.
That being said, though, the live DVD version of it, and I think I need to make it clear now that, like, I think once we get past, like, score, the DVD almost becomes kind of the default version of the release because
yeah.
that's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
I do love the little snippets between the tracks, you know, the little bits of, like, interviews and backstage footage.
And
then,
I love the very short, and I wish they had the whole thing on it, but the very short area where you had Regression being sung by Michael Eckefelt from Opeth.
oh, yeah.
Like that, just because this was when they were doing their whole Prog Nation thing, and Opeth was
Regression. What was it?
Regression and
no, not Regression. It's on the tip of my tongue. Repentance.
Repentance. Thank you.
Yeah.
And having him come out and sing that part, I wish they had the whole thing so that we could see that, because I mean,
definitely.
Opeth was one of the guys on that big Prog Nation tours.
Yep.
Oh, that would have been brilliant.
I also loved that John Petrucci acknowledged the psycho exercises memes. Oh, if I just set this to 8 billion notes per second.
Yep. Oh man,
I love those. I love those.
So yeah,
I'm
kind of
such a sucker for them.
the behind the scenes that were intermixed among the tour was really nice. I really like that. So I'm torn. I'm torn for actually putting this in here because I know it's not S.
I would personally place it B myself.
I know, that's like, I want to put it in A. I really do, but I also know in my heart it kind of is a B. Like, it pains me because this is still one of my favorite ones, and this is where, like, personal preference and analytical thinking are like bashing their heads against one another, because, like, in my heart it's an A, but in my brain it's a B. So I'm gonna, because you were the one that put it in B, I'm gonna honor that, and I'm gonna keep it in. I'm gonna keep it in B. I'm gonna keep it in B.
I mean, my B is mostly because by this point I'm already a little like, all right, I've heard a few Dream Theater DVDs now. I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah.
And this was the first one that kind of, I wouldn't say disappointed me. Just it was, okay. It's a normal experience now.
Yeah. And honestly,
it's not blowing my mind.
Honestly, if you had asked me where this was a week ago, 100% it would have been an S. But after listening to it without the rose-tinted glasses, I'm like, okay, I'll put it in a B. I'll give you that. All right, so let's move on to their 2013 release, their first one without Portnoy on the drums, live at Luna Park.
Yeah, okay. So yeah. I only got these physically recently, but I've of course watched the main body of material of Luna Park a few times. So
yeah, and I have the whole box set thing.
Oh, nice!
That like it's what, like 15.
Just regular.
It's got like the whole that keeps folding out. So I've got
Sick.
The 2 DVDs and then like the 3 CDs. Like this thing is like a mile long.
Holy cow!
Like it's pretty big. So I got the whole kit and caboodle with this one.
That's something.
it's something, all right. Yeah. Of all the ones that I had to do that for, this was the one that apparently I wanted to splurge all my money on.
And you see me looking down a lot. It's because I'm like reading over the track list, but like you look at the back of this, the track list is in like
white the same
on light gray.
Yeah, it's
so I'm like I can't read
it's
this.
Like which one is on there? Yeah, I will. Okay, so you can feel Portnoy's absence on this. Like it's almost tangible. For me, and a lot of that is just, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. Like it feels almost automated in how they're presenting a lot of these tracks. You know, now that's not necessarily a bad thing because I also love the set list because I mean
Oh yeah,
there's 26 songs on this thing.
that they went all out on
They
the track list
Oh yeah,
for
so
this.
I mean I love the track
Incredible.
list. You got going back to Systematic Chaos, we've got Dark Eternal Night. I also love the fact that Root of All Evil is on this.
It is, yeah.
One of my favorite tracks from Octavarium on there. I'm just kind of looking again. Fortune of Lies, I could probably do without, but on the back, and I do enjoy because even though this is a very turn of a dramatic events heavy on this,
On the backs of Angels, you mean they played Pull Me Under twice?
they really did. They really did.
I could devote an entire video to that
Oh
topic.
my
So
gosh, yeah,
maybe I
it's
will one of these
you
days.
should you should.
I should.
But I mean, I do love. I do love a dramatic turn of events. At the end of the day, I think it's a fantastic and stellar album, and I like that they played some of my favorite tracks. Like they open it up with "Bridges in the Sky."
Yeah.
I do love "Outcry" for that big, massive jam session in the middle of it. And "Breaking All Illusions" it's one of those that I had to really warm up to because when I first heard it, I'm
Really?
like, yeah, because like originally I was just like, well, this is. I don't want to say it's Paint by Numbers Dream Theater, but it felt very Paint by Numbers Dream Theater. And
It's funny.
it took me a long time to warm up to it, and so when I listened to it again just this past week, I was like, okay.
Oh, it's funny because I have the exact opposite opinion. I hated a dramatic turn of events at first. And
Interesting.
Breaking All Illusions was the only track on it I liked.
Interesting. That's beautiful. I love
It was
that.
the only one where I was like, maybe because it was Paint by Numbers Dream Theater, and I wanted to hear Paint by Numbers Dream Theater. Damn it! And
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
but yeah, I mean, I've warmed up to the album a little bit. It's one of those ones where I'm still like, bah humbug, I hate this, until I listen to it, and then in the listening to it, it's like, wow, this is a better album than I gave it credit for. Why don't I listen to it more often?
Yeah.
And then when it's over, it's like, bah humbug, I hate this
It is.
record.
It is. It's one of those like you go into it being like, "Meh, I don't want to listen to it," and then you're listening to it, you're like, okay, fine, it's good.
It's good.
And then
It's good.
afterwards, you're like, I didn't like it at all. I don't want to go there at all. Right?
Oh, I imagine our discourse on the next one's going to be fun.
Oh, that's gonna be good. Yeah. But I mean, it's really interesting because I think they're all playing at a top notch. Like I think the musicianship
Yes.
on this one is actually better than Chaos in Motion.
I consider
You know?
Live at Luna Park to be something of a sleeper hit for Dream Theater.
Yeah.
A sleeper S.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting much of it. I wasn't really thinking, oh, this is going to be like really good. But like even Labrie, like his vocals are actually on point.
Yeah,
for the
they're
most
good.
Part.
They're good. Yeah.
And the performances from the band are great. The visuals in the DVD are
Yeah.
stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like everything I wanted, like a normal Dream Theater live album and live video to be.
And the whole set list, like they're covering everything. You know, you've got
They
like
go a little all over the place.
yeah,
I think there's
you've got like Metropolis Part 1 and Pull Me Under from Images and Words. You've got
Yeah.
Caught in a Web, and a few others from Awake.
and I'll give them this. Beneath the Surface is probably the one Dream Theater song that if you asked me if I could snap my fingers and Thanos it out of existence, that would be the one.
Interesting. Okay.
And,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yet on this performance of it, I'm cool with it. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that track
Yeah.
being there.
For me,
and the Silent Man, they got some Awake on there.
yeah. The Silent Man and Caught in a Web.
Oh yeah, Caught in a Web.
Caught in a Web. I love that rendition. And I mean, again, that's another track that's really tricky for Labrie, and he really, really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
For me, the one that I would snap out of existence is "Build Me Up, Break Me Down." On this set list, I just
Okay.
not for me.
I mean,
Yeah,
it felt as a song, it feels like Dream Theater's attempt to write like a modern radio hit.
Yeah, it did. It did. For me though, it felt very dated.
Muse.
Yeah, Muse. I was thinking
In the solo was very
it
Muse.
is very Muse. And I mean, you already covered that with a lot of
Never enough.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this one's an interesting one for me to kind of put in this chart, but like I don't want to put it into an A, but I mean my mind is almost saying it could if I put it into an A, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be upset. But
Yeah.
I'm also kind of thinking that it might be a B. Like that's where I'm kind of wavering. You know?
I think it's a much better package than you think of going into it. And for me, it's an A. For me,
Yeah.
it's a clear A, bordering on S.
Yeah.
It's like edging there.
I wouldn't go as far as to say it's an S, but I would like upon thinking about it and as a packaged product, I think it's closer to an A than it is to a B. And yeah, I think this is why I love, and this is the only project that I feel Mangini actually shines on, because at the end of the day
Okay.
he's more of a studio drummer than he is a drummer. Like
Yeah.
I always say he's a timekeeper and not a drummer.
I have a lot of drummer friends who are, one of whom is watching right now. Hi, Kyler. And I'm sure he'll have opinions and thoughts on this. But I agree with you about Mike. A lot of even the live drumming, a lot of it sounds like it's been replaced with samples.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I create more human sounding drum beats in Easy Drummer on my computer.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the thing that he has going for him is his knowledge of his back catalog of Dream Theater stuff.
Yeah.
Because he does know these tracks inside and out.
Marco Miniman should have been the drummer.
I 100% agree. I will like if this was like a Thanos snap and if I could change one thing in history, that would
Marco
be it.
Miniman.
But I always have to remind myself, if Marco Minimum got this gig, he wouldn't have been with Steven Wilson to do The Raven and Hand Cannot Erase. So it's
Can you imagine if Mike Mangini got that? gig?
that would be the monkey paw. That would be the monkey paw. You wish it, and then you were like, okay, but guess who's going to be on Raven and Hand Cannot Erase? I was like, no, do it again. I don't want this. That's the monkey paw. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh boy. So I think this is one of the few albums where he actually is able to shine. Because of the back catalog that's supporting him. I don't think he does anything revolutionary or exciting with the material that he's given, but he's able to keep the time. So yeah, I feel okay with having this in A, even though it does hurt me a little bit that this is an A and Chaos in Motion is in B. Oh boy, this is why I love doing this.
Put it in B if you want.
No. I love this. I love this. It's a collaborative thing. Because as I said, I feel more comfortable. It's closer to an A than it is to a B. All right.
All right.
let's talk about Breaking the Fourth Wall live from the Boston Opera House, released in 2014. So this was an interesting one in terms of the release, because this came out like a couple weeks after The Astonishing came out. So The Astonishing came out, and then a couple weeks went by, and then this came out. And I always remember that as almost like a bait and switch, kind of like what Weezer did with the Teal album and the Black album.
Must have been a different version of it, because my copy here says copyright 2014, which is before Astonishing.
Is it? Because I thought Astonishing also came out in 2014.
No, 2016.
Is it 2016? Oh man, my brain is all over the place.
Want to feel old? That was 5 years ago.
I was gonna say I don't want to feel old, but oh boy. Okay. So maybe that's where I was getting it, where the Astonishing. Okay. So that's where it came from. Never mind. This is why I had you on board, because I would have been like, yeah, this one came out before, and like would have stick to it, and then
Dream Theater trivia king over here. So
yeah, this is why I have you here. Okay, so yeah, there's this guy. There's this guy.
Oh look, Trial of Tears is on it again.
I could live my entire life and not hear Trial. And so I actually have this on DVD. I got it. I got the whole thing.
Yep.
There
I
it
just
is.
have the Blu-ray
Oh,
release.
good.
I literally have one device in this house that plays Blu-rays, our PlayStation 4, and yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a Blu-ray player at the time, so that's why I still had to stick
So
to the DVD. So
this is the release of their live releases that I have the least experience with because I've only watched it in full once and seen a couple of videos from it on YouTube before.
yeah,
But I mean, judging from the performances that I am quite familiar with and the track list that's on here, it's a bit of a strange beast, this one, because,
yeah,
I mean, of course, you have a lot of focus on the band's new album at the time, their self-titled record, which
yep,
I know is your bottom of the ranking for Dream Theater.
yep. It
And I have a
is.
very different opinion from you on that. It's far from the bottom. It's like maybe somewhere in the middle for me.
Hey, that's fine. That's cool.
I like the songs on it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It's like because it's split into three acts or two acts and an encore.
It is. Yes.
And Act 1 is mostly it's all new material. I think the only track on there that's older than the album before it is Trial of Tears.
Yeah, you
So it's
do.
all stuff from Mangini era Dream Theater.
Yeah, and the second track you do have is Shattered Fortress from Black Clouds.
Yeah, and it's so weird to hear a band without Mike Portnoy
I agree.
play an AA Saga piece.
I agree. And I mean, it was the same thing when I heard them do that with Lunar Park. Or sorry, Luna Park. I always want to say Lunar Park.
Did
Hearing,
they play? Oh yeah, they played Root of All Evil.
yeah, they played Root of All Evil on it. Yeah, I agree. Now, my exposure to this is a little different because I actually saw this when they came to Toronto. So I was there.
You were in the show.
I was in the show. I mean, not this one because it's Boston, and I was in Toronto. So I took my dad, my stepmom, and one of my best friends, Sarah, to this show, and we all loved it. And I think a lot of that had to do with being there in person. And even though the self-titled work again isn't my favorite, it's my least favorite. There is still good tracks off that album, and I will.
Yeah.
I mean I do genuinely love the opening track, like the intro. I do really like The Enemy Inside. It's all the other tracks. I mean, and of course I do like Illumination Theory.
Their cover of Rush's Limelight is pretty good.
It is, but like I don't. That's good.
Looking Glass.
That's good. Yeah.
It's just Limelight. That's really all it is.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I don't like a lot of those B sides on that release and how it's being presented here. Like Along for the Ride, Enigma Machine, and The Looking Glass. I don't. They're not my favorites, and I don't like those tracks, if I'm being perfectly honest. I know, I'm sorry.
I like Along for the Ride. Cute.
I don't know. I find like The Looking Glass and Along for the Ride are too similar for me. There's not enough deviation from the norm in that one. And hey, look, Breaking All Illusions is the one that they finish off on. So again, that one's here. So it's interesting. Like the first act, I both love and hate, right? I love the fact that The Enemy Inside follows, The Shattered Fortress follows Enemy Inside. I think they chose the wrong track from A Dramatic Turn of Events because I really don't want to hear Pull Me Under again. So I'm going to use that now because I love that so much. I think any other track from A Dramatic Turn of Events would have fit better on this one. Trail of Tears, again, I could live my entire life without hearing that one again. So that's like 3 in a row that Trail of Tears was on.
Yeah, I think so.
And like I don't want to hear it again. Enigma Machine is fine, but not their best instrumental. I've already talked about Along for the Ride. And Breaking All Illusions, how it's presented here is okay. But I don't know. I could yeah. I do like so Act Two and their encore, they were celebrating the 20 years of Awake
Awake. And
and 15
the,
years.
it's one of my favorite Dream Theater albums, so I mean, it's a soft spot for me to
Yeah,
hear these tracks.
yeah, and I think that
Although,
was yeah.
oh yeah, although again, just like with the Shattered Fortress, does feel a little like they're bringing out the forbidden fruit by playing Space Divest
Without more.
without more like.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. Now I'm glad that it's here because I do love
Oh
hearing it live, but yeah, I think it feels yeah, like forbidden fruit is a good word for it, but it feels like they're playing somebody else's track because they are.
yeah,
So yeah,
it's like they're covering Dream Theater
yeah,
instead of playing Dream
yeah,
Theater.
yeah, and I mean, man, Awake is such a Kevin centered album. But yeah, the fact that they do the mirror lie, shattered, lifting shadows off of a dream,
That's one of my favorite
yeah,
songs.
it's so good.
Doesn't matter what artist, like it's
Yeah,
one of my favorite songs.
yeah,
Lifting Shadows Off Dream.
yeah,
Oh, the bass parts in that are so good,
so good.
and it's the reason I own a delay pedal for my guitar. So
Oh boy, yeah, and then going into Scarred and Space by Died Vest, like the fact that they're playing all of side B of Awake is just I'm here for that.
yeah,
Especially this far in their career, where they've basically played all their back catalog to death. Hello, Trial of Tears. And then we go into the Elimination Theory, and on this particular piece, they have the full orchestra with them. Well, not a
and yeah. This is the track from the album I'm most familiar with, like for the live album, because I remember catching like a subbed version of it on YouTube a long time ago. It's pretty good, although I mean, and this is gonna tie into like my overall thoughts on breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Labrie is a little iffy.
He's
at
tired.
times.
He's tired. Yeah.
He sings the ending of Illumination Theory like he's got a mouth stuffed full of wet cotton balls.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
She
mean,
really feels the joy in life.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, he's gone through so many tracks, but I mean, we know he can do it because he did a hell of a lot of tracks on Live at Lunar Park or Luna Park. So you know he
Yeah.
can. You know he's along for the ride. But yeah, I agree that he sounds tired by the end of it. And then they kind of do a smattering of tracks from scenes from memory as their encore.
Foreboding.
So it's an interesting choice to do Strange Deja Vu, Dance of Eternity, and Finally Free. Like, I mean, if you're going to choose a snippet from scenes from memory, those are probably your go-to. So yeah, this is
I would have thrown One Last Time in there.
I would too.
Personally.
I would too, because I think that's the perfect bridge between Dance of Eternity and Finally Free.
Or Spirit Carries On, because I mean, yes, that's another one that's like Trial of Tears, where they play it on every DVD.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's Spirit Carries On, and that one's it's. Oh.
I would agree, but I will say if they put Spirit Carries On, I feel like it would have detracted from the flow.
It might have cheapened it.
Yeah.
It might have cheapened it a little.
Yeah. So I can understand and I appreciate them leaving that off, but I do agree that yeah. For me, this one is like it's still good. I would put it as a B. That's mine, but I feel there's a hesitation. What are you thinking? Are you thinking more of a C? Is this a C boy? Is this a C dog?
I think it's a C for me. Like,
okay.
Labrie's performances are enough to sort of. I mean, it's got a good, solid kind of concept where you've got like the Mangini era stuff, then Awake, some of my favorite material, and then a little bit of scenes from memory. It's a very limited set list in that regard, though, because I mean they're only really playing from a couple albums. Mind you, foreboding. And Labrie's performances are a little bit harder to stomach on this one than they were on Luna Park.
I will agree. And so it is a little bit of a double-edged sword for my love of this album because I was able to see it live and it reminds me of it. The other thing, though, is that they didn't change a single thing. So, like, the concert that I saw on this DVD was the exact same concert that I saw in Toronto, like, practically note for note. So...
Just without the orchestra?
Just without
the orchestra?
No, without the orchestra, because I saw them at Massey Hall, and there's no room for both Dream Theater and an orchestra at Massey Hall. So, you know what? I would agree that it's more of a C album, especially with the limitations that they set upon themselves based on the tracks that they decided to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some people that are disagreeing with our thoughts on Live at the Marquee.
Hey, that's fair. Like, I love a good
It's fair.
discourse. Yeah. All right.
But understand, like, these are our personal opinions, you know.
Yes.
If all of them are D except for that one for you, then cool, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge.
Yeah. So we come into the last one. We come into the one that was released last year.
Be a D.
Oh boy. So we're coming into Distant Memories live in London. And I think we both have a very fond connection with this because this was the one that we got to see.
Yeah, and I actually have doubly fond of a connection with this particular release because, one, we got to experience that show together, and it was a fantastic time. And secondly, I got to actually review this for Ultimate Guitar recently, which is for the people who don't know me outside of, you know, YouTube or whatever. I write reviews for ultimateguitar.com. That's kind of what I'm doing for... It's the closest thing I have to a job these days, thanks to World Events.
Yep.
And I got to do a review of this, and it was one of the rare releases where they actually gave me early access to it, and that included the video. So I got to watch the DVD portion of this before most people got to.
Nice, because I'm going to be perfectly honest. I haven't actually seen the DVD version of this, so I only have the music and, of course, the visuals that we saw, because much like Breaking the Fourth Wall, it was essentially the exact same concert in terms of presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of differences here between the show presented on this release and the one we saw. The encores are different.
Yes, because the encore here, I believe, is at Wit's End, and ours was
Pull Me Under.
Pull Me Under. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you have the bonus track, which is Paralyzed. But
yeah, and I have that too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What did you think about this one? I want to hear your take first before I give my 2 cents.
Okay, well, I think, because I'm remembering this in the context of us going to this show 2 years ago, and, you know, I remember how absolutely ecstatic I was to see Dream Theater live. I'd never seen them live before at this point, and... You know, being the first time that I see my all-time favorite band live, I don't care what the set list is, as long as they're, you know, as long as I get to see them playing on stage. You know, I'm in the same room as John Petrucci right now. Anything can happen, and I'm happy. Yeah, except for people kicking my seat. But,
oh,
you know,
I felt so bad. Oh, I felt so bad. But yeah.
But. You know, again, it's one of those things where just like with, what was that one, Live at Budokan, where I have to kind of separate the nostalgic, emotional side of me with the objective side of me, and, I mean, it's a very limited set list.
It is.
Very limited set list.
It is. Essentially, they had enough room for about 7 tracks before they ran into the entirety of Scenes from a Memory.
I appreciate that they played A Nightmare to Remember. It's a great
Yep.
track.
Yep.
I'm so glad that it's here.
Yep.
But I can't help but feel like if they removed that, they would have had room for like 4 normal length Dream Theater songs that would have fit in. Maybe even a couple more from Distance Over Time, which, you know what, I love that album. I love Distance Over Time, so I'm glad to see like a couple tracks from that. I love Barstool Warrior. I love Pale Blue Dot. Those are great tracks.
Yep. Yep.
At Wits End, which is the encore. That outro solo is majestic.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so I'm glad to see that, but like there's only 2 tracks on this entire live recording that come from an album outside of Distance Over Time or Scenes. So
It's true,
you know, in
yeah.
the Presence of Enemies, and we heard In the Presence of Enemies already on Chaos in Motion.
Yeah, not wrong. Yeah.
You know, so it feels like the band isn't really offering anything new with this. It's really just more of like, here's a collection of our new songs, which is good, you know. You want to promote the new thing.
Yeah.
I have nothing against that, but I think if they pulled out either In the Presence of Enemies, they could have thrown in like a couple of other tracks, like maybe 2 more tracks.
Right.
A Nightmare to Remember could have been replaced with, you know, maybe a couple tracks from, you know, their back catalog somewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. I almost have the opposite opinion.
Okay.
I love the fact that they have these 2 tracks on there.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love
Yeah,
those being there.
I know, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, for example, the last time I saw the Musical Box, because I've seen them like a ridiculous amount of times. I've seen them like 20 times. The last time I saw them, they didn't play Supper's Ready, and
How do you not play Supper's Ready?
and at first I was really disappointed that they didn't. But they also played Seven Stones. They played Fountain of Scal.
I don't even know how to pronounce that one.
And they played what is it? The last track off of the first side of Foxtrot.
I don't even remember.
Anyway, they played a lot
a
of
while.
and they also played. I want to say it was Visions of Angels. So they by not playing Supper's Ready, they played 4 of these hidden gems that I never thought that I would hear be played live. So I am with you that there's a part of me that kind of wishes that they played smaller tracks just to kind of give a little bit more room to those tracks. But I'm also extremely glad that they played A Nightmare to Remember, because up until that point, I don't think they played anything from Black Clouds live.
No, they hadn't. Or
Like
no, they played the Shattered Fortress.
They did play the Shattered Fortress. Yeah, that's right. But that one felt like a steal, you know, like
Yeah,
it just
did.
felt. I felt hearing that. So I'm
You're making
glad.
me look through all these CDs.
I know
now.
I did the same thing, because I looked through Luna Park and it's not on Luna. Sorry, I always want to say Luna Park. There's nothing from that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And we only get the Shattered Fortress, which I still love, and I do love the Shattered Fortress in that it's a conglomeration of all the other AA tracks.
Yeah.
But like, now I think it would have been sacrilegious if they played the tribute to his father, Best of Times, which I don't think they could legally be able to play. But I am glad to see that some Black Clouds and Silver Linings presence on here, because, you know, I feel like it kind of got the short end of the stick in terms of live performances. And In the Presence of Enemies, like as I already mentioned, Systematic Chaos is one of my all-time favorites. I love this track. So I'm glad that they gave these 2 tracks the light of day and helped them to breathe life into these 2 tracks. So yeah, I will say that I could have done with one less track from Distance Over Time, if I'm being honest. Either
I'm looking at the chat right now, and I'm seeing like Dervin Munoz says should have played Status Seeker and Misunderstood.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
agree
Yeah,
they should
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Daniel Alvarado. Sorry if I'm butchering your names, by the way.
A
I agree that they
nightmare.
should have not have played A Nightmare to
Oh,
Remember.
that's
Would
a
have preferred
hot take.
a Count of
That's a
Tuscany.
hot
Ooh.
take. That's hot. That's hot.
The glass prison instead of in the presence of enemies. I'm on board with that, Dervin. I'm on board
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. Anyway,
Oh, I'm going to address a couple more comments just because I see them coming up.
go for it. Yeah.
I mentioned something. Someone mentioned something about the kicking the seat.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting in my seat, like enjoying the show, and whoever is sitting in the seat behind me, I guess they're not paying attention to what's going on, and they're rocking out, and their foot's hitting the back of my seat, and it's annoying. Stop
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, and honestly, I think he was doing it unintentionally. Like I think he was just
Oh yeah,
jamming,
it was.
you know?
It's not like he was like, oh, I hate this guy. And
This is what you get. Yeah.
But just courteousness.
Yeah.
And then the other comment, because I mentioned this way back,
Oh, boy.
and
I'm doing a deep pull.
it's been coming up in the chat a couple times. What tour was the last tour Portnoy was drinking on? That was the Scenes from a Memory tour. In fact, if the Live in New York show was the last one on the tour, that was the last show he drank. So and it was at the end of that show, of the last show on that tour, was the moment he said, I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. I'm
Yeah.
not drinking anymore. He
Yeah.
checked into AA basically the next day. So
Yeah. That's
just, all right, we got that over the way. Let's get back to
Yeah.
distant memories.
yeah, so I think like
Actually, that kind of ties us back in, because we're now talking about a live recording of Scenes from a Memory.
yeah, and I will admit they do a fantastic job of repurposing the entire album in this presentation, because it's like a lot of their other stuff, like what we were talking about with 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, and like hearing any of these tracks outside of outside of the concept of the album. I think the only ones that I would probably be The Spirit Carries On. That's the only track out of all of these that I could hear without immediately wondering where the track before it or the one that's after it is. But I think, like, considering that, we're 20 years now, at least 20 years from when they did it, 22 years now since they originally released it.
Yikes.
They did a pretty good job at reconstructing the whole album.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is going back more to the visual aspects of it than the sonic aspects, but the new animations that they did for the backdrop, they could have cheaped out and just played the same video footage that they had for the 2000 tour, and that would have been fine. Nobody would have complained about that. But the fact that they did new animations, new bringing up like new ideas, like the tributes during Through Her Eyes. Through Her Eyes. All the tributes to the different fallen musicians, and I remember when we watched that together, like there were tears in that audience.
Yeah, and I mean, it was extremely powerful by the time we got through The Spirit Carries On. Like, I remember I was weeping.
I didn't show off the physical yet.
Oh, right. Here, let me just switch back over. Let's see that physical so I can see it. There it is. Ooh, that looks nice. Okay.
It is. It's I went for the whole box set.
I was going to say that looks similar to my Live at Luna Park box set.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So, yeah, and I also like the fact that those graphics weren't just graphic design is my passion. Like,
no, there was work put into them that was a little bit more in keeping with the themes of the concept and everything. So I really enjoyed the visual aspect of it. Sonically, this one's James LaBrie again.
Yeah, I know, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there was some After Effects that were put on, because there's some times when it just sounds auto-tuned, and like at first, like I know when we saw him live, I was very impressed
Oh yeah,
by his deliverance. But
yeah.
here, there's a lot of times when it feels manufactured and it feels like a robot is singing it.
Or, I mean, I'm pitch sensitive, and there's a lot of times where he's singing like way off of the note that he's
Yeah,
supposed to be singing, and
and it's not an artistic choice.
no.
No.
And that's the thing about a lot of these live things. Like, I don't think that there's a single live DVD except for maybe Luna Park where Score and Budokan are also pretty okay for pitch. But I don't think there's a single Dream Theater live performance where it really shows James at his fullest potential.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, there are a lot of moments with James where you're kind of left a little like, ugh, if it's this bad on the recording, do I really want to go see them live? And I remember having the same sort of preconceptions before going to see them live with you. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, yeah.
oh, I hope James LaBrie doesn't suck tonight.
Well, I remember having
And he
that
didn't, and he was
conversation.
great.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. It's like the time, like I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's like the time I saw Dragon Force live.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's telling you like, oh, they can't play,
Yeah.
they fake it, and no, they could play. Maybe they faked it at your performance, but at mine, they were not faking it.
Right.
And it's the same with LaBrie. Like, I think it's one of those things where they really need to like record every show on a tour and like go over each show with a fine-tooth comb and pick the one with his best performance and put that out as their live DVD.
Yeah.
Because, for a lot of people who aren't like really into like the musicianship aspect of music, they want to hear a good singer.
Yeah.
I know I've shown quite a few prog things to, my girlfriend, friends of mine, and they don't care that the song is in like 7/8 time with 4 guitar solos, and they just want to hear a good melody, and they want to hear it sung well by the singer. And if you can't deliver that, you're only going to appeal to sweaty nerds like me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where Dream Theater as a live band really, like, for all of these releases, there's at least one moment where I kind of recoil a bit at James. And that's always going to be a factor for this.
Yeah, it's difficult, right? Like, I think they did the best that they can. And yeah, I mean, the last thing that I do want to say about this particular piece is that I was, no, I'm not going to make that pun. I was shocked that they didn't include anything from The Astonishing on it. I thought for sure that the encore would have been either Our New World or the title track of Astonishing.
Ooh.
Because
that would have been great.
There's nothing. And I mean, even though The Astonishing isn't necessarily my favorite album from them,
it has good tracks.
It still has some good tracks. There's still some good moments on there. You have to shift through a lot to get to them.
And honestly, and they haven't released a live recording of the entire Astonishing yet.
No.
But if they ever did, I might have to revisit it and see if
because
my opinion holds up.
I got to see them. I got to see them perform the entire Astonishing, and they did it beautifully. Like, they did a great job, and they did it. They did it when John Petrucci was sick. So he came to our show and he wasn't feeling very good, but he was still able to do the entire thing. And at the end, he was like sitting down in his amp, and James LaBrie basically came over and gave him a huge pat, and he's like turned to us and he's just like, everybody better be clapping their asses off because this man just did this sick. So y'all best show some respect. And we were all like, we're not worthy.
The benefits of not being a singer, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like,
James couldn't have done that.
Oh no. So like, I was a little surprised, but I still think at the end of the day, this is like a really good live album for where they are right now. That's the caveat that I put. It's a great expression of where they are as a band right now. in that I think their better works are in the past.
I'm gonna wait for you to say where you're gonna put this album before I
Okay.
say where I would put it.
Okay. So because I do like and enjoy and respect the CD1, or I guess their first act of the songs that they chose, and how they were able to reconstruct the entirety of Scenes from a Memory so well, I would honestly put this into a B for me.
Okay.
It's closer to a B than it is to a C, but like that's kind of where I'm feeling. That's kind of where I'm feeling. Like I wouldn't feel bad in putting this in a C, but I think it has enough good to outweigh it for being in a C. That's where I would put it. But where would you put it? You have the ability to sway my opinion on this one.
I would put it in the sea, and by that I mean the ocean.
Okay. Okay.
No, I mean,
Is this a D? Do we have to move this into a D?
C would be sort of the halfway point for our opinions, I think.
Okay. Okay.
I'm, and this is surprising because this is the show we went to, and I got emotional at the show, and it was such a great moment. But going back and watching it again, and seeing the quality of the release as they put it out left me feeling a little bitter. It left me feeling a little like, man, like we had it so good when we saw them. I wish that the show, as it was presented professionally, was closer to the experience we had, because and that's the thing, reliving those moments. Like I haven't even tried looking up videos from our concert because I'm worried that I'm gonna be wrong.
There really is a magic about being in the space, because like when I went to see Breaking the Fourth Wall, when I saw that performance live, it was brilliant and amazing, and I loved it. Watching it on a TV and listening to it on a CD, not so much. It's not so much, you know?
Two very different experiences.
Very different experiences, yeah.
And this is one of two concerts in my life where I've had the pleasure or displeasure, depending on how you feel about it, of seeing the exact same show both in the space and on the screen. The other being Steven Wilson's live at Royal Albert Hall Home Invasion.
Which is it's interesting because that was the only performance of his that I didn't see.
Interesting.
Because I saw...
And we were almost going to have you see it with us.
Yeah, but I think something happened that I couldn't, but like... Because I saw all of his live tours whenever he came to Toronto from the Raven. So I saw everything from the Raven tour all the way through, and the only one that I missed was his most recent one.
Yeah.
And the same with, and it's interesting, the same thing happened with Haken, because the only show that I didn't see from Haken was the one that they put out on DVD. Because I saw everything from Restoration all the way through, and that includes like the more recent ones. And the only one that I didn't see was the one that they put out on DVD. So
yeah, so I mean, that's just one of those things where it's like, it's one of the few kind of moments where I've I've gotten the experience of it both live and on my screen, and in this case I'm kind of disappointed. It left me feeling a little bitter, and personally I would have put it in D, but I think C kind of evens it out a little.
Okay. I will give that to you, because my rating would be an honest B, and because your rating is an honest D, I think a C compromise is a good... I don't feel bad having it in C.
A compromise, if we're...
It is. Yeah. So we've got 3 Sea Dogs there. And then...
yes, I did change my background.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I've been looking... Oh, there we go.
My own tackle.
Oh, jeez. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about all of their live albums with me. This has been a fantastic time.
This has been fun.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't following Lausch on YouTube, where can they find you? Where can they find your reviews?
It's Lao Show's reviews and vlogs. I'll probably leave a link in the comments somewhere
Yeah.
down there.
And once
When
once
we're
once this goes live and we have the recorded version of this, if you want to just like comment on that video, I'll pin it so that people can find you super
I
duper
don't
easy.
I don't post reviews there very often, and some of them are of dubious quality. But I do try to put out some good works when I can. I'm still hoping to put my words on the new Steven Wilson release out there soon.
Yeah, I butchered mine. Oh, I do not feel good about that.
I'm so
Ugh.
sorry about correcting you on all
No,
that.
no, I needed it because honestly, I was pulling the wrong information. I was pulling Prague Archives information, and it's interesting. I sat down with the conscious effort to A, get all of my facts right, and B, enunciate all of my things, and I butchered both of those things. Because I'm like, I'm going to be
Happens to the best of us.
I'm going to be good. I'm going to get all of my personnel right because I'm going to use the Prague Archives that have never led me astray. And I think you're exactly right in your mentions that I think they just copied and pasted what was onto the bone and just assumed that nothing was going to change. I am very pleased that nobody's called me out for mispronouncing in absentia or in absentia. So
In absentia, yeah.
yeah, I'm very proud. I'm very proud that I didn't do that. But yeah, I'm very interested to hear other people's thoughts on that album. So
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you for having me on.
oh, no problem. Thank you for coming on board. And I think that's about it. Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite Dream Theater album was, live Dream Theater album, how you would rate them down in the comments. If you want to support me, I've got my Patreon link down below. And I think that's about it. So thank you all for watching. You guys, all of you who have shown up live, as well as everybody that's tuning into the recording, you guys definitely the best. And until next time, Notes and Lao Show out.